Hello, everybody. How's it going today? I've been having a few thoughts lately as a result of some stuff that's been going on in the news the last couple of weeks. Um, and it's regarding, some federal employees who have lost their jobs and some who may, some more who may lose their jobs in the very near future. And my mind just went into, I wonder how prepared those people may have been for some type of eventuality like this occurring. And it doesn't matter this time, it's because uh, of new leadership in the government, but it doesn't really matter. I just started thinking about, I wonder how prepared they were, uh, or if they were in the process of preparing themselves to be able to deal with this. And it kind of threw my mind back to just a few years ago when I really started thinking about what could happen. You know, um, as a believer, I'm trusting God and I'm you know depending on Him. But I started thinking about what could possibly happen. What if at some point I'm working for a company and a new boss comes in and decides that he doesn't like my personality, or there's a layoff, and all of a sudden I'm in that number, and all of a sudden I don't have income. So during this period of time, I started talking to my wife and having conversation. I said, "Look, we I want us to be in a situation where if suddenly I am without income, we don't have to panic." And I remember having that conversation and really having a sense of urgency as I started to think about some of the things I've seen regarding other people, how other people had suddenly been impacted and how they suddenly lost their income that they were depending on, and how they had to try to adjust and to deal with that situation. So, and I remember doing the math and asking myself this question: if I have no more income effective today, how long can I live without panic? That's the test. If my income stops today, how long before I have to panic? And that gave me a pretty good idea of how I was doing, um, managing my financial resources up to that point. And so I didn't necessarily like the answer. I didn't like the answer at all. Again, that prompted us to start making some decisions to grow things that should be grown and get rid of things that shouldn't be growing, like debt. And I think that's a good test for all of us to think about. If your income stopped today, how long could you live before you had to panic? And you could categorize panic as how long before you'd have to start to depend on credit cards, how long before you'd have to get a loan, how long before you'd have to fill in the blank. How long could you live um, before you start to panic a little bit? So I think that's a good exercise for all of us to go through and think about that. Again, based on the news that's all over the place now regarding some federal employees, I do think it's a worthwhile exercise to go through, to write down those numbers, see what those actual numbers would be. How much would you have to cut your expenses? What kind of uh, unnecessary expenses would you have to cut out if all of a sudden you had no income? And I know you might say, well, I'd find something else to do. I'd grow my side gig that I got now. Perfect. Um, if your side gig can support your lifestyle right now, that is an amazing spot to be in. But we also want to be realistic and give this some real hard thought and come up with a real answer as to what the answer would be to that question. Again, how long could I live if my income stopped today? How long would I be able to live without panicking? Or maybe even doing something irrational? Think about that for a second. So, again, the current news just got me to thinking about that. And, when people talk about, um, how well you're doing, we just got to make sure we're not mistaking income for wealth, because those are two totally different things. Um, our goal should be to work on building our wealth. And again, I always say not necessarily just for us, for our own consumption, but again, as believers, so we can be generous. Um, we can maybe leave an inheritance. We can support the church. We can do those things. So again, income versus wealth, two totally different definitions of those two words. And it's important that we understand those differences. Hope you guys had a great day today. And I will talk to you soon.